Hi. So now we're going to talk about two more aspects of texturing our African spherical pots. So you can choose the surface. We've talked about that. It's your choice. There's a wide range of possibilities. I'm demonstrating three, a very traditional applique approach. And now I'm going to show you this technique that I developed I call it Incise and Snap, because that's just really catchy. And then I'll show you a faceting technique. And then you are free to range any way you want, carving, adding, anything you want to do. But here is the piece that you saw me starting with the incising. And now it's completely incised. And what that means is using a little wood tool, I've gone over every one of, and just drew lines right through the piece. And I separated those lines according to, I just kind of made different sections so I could change the direction of the line for greater interest. Now, I want to let this get hard leather hard, and it's almost there. It's not quite hard leather hard yet. It's still a little bit soft, but it's got enough going on that I can demonstrate the last part of the technique, which takes some time and attention. But what you're going to do is you're now going to snap all these little ledges that you've made. So you can see I've just started working on this area. And what I want to do is snap it in a way that leaves chunks of it irregularly in place. So I'm inserting the end of this hacksaw blade and just prying it a little bit and just breaking off the clay. And that makes a very irregular. And when it dries a little bit more, it'll be even more rough and ragged, the way I like. I like a very irregular break. And so you can see as I put the tool in, now let me get you a little closer here. You can really zoom in and see it happen a little bit more precisely. So you can see that I'm taking this tool, inserting it into the seam, and then just prying it up a little bit. Now it's still pretty soft, as I say, so it's not breaking ideally, but it will in a little bit when it stiffens up a bit. But I wanted you to see it, so that's how it works. Now there's really nothing else to show you. That's literally all I do on all these edges all the way around. And I've been careful to incise them deep enough to create an edge that'll break, but not so deep that I violate the thickness of the pot. And then if I do that, of course, then the pot itself is compromised with cracks or breaks. So I think I've done a good job with that. So we should be all right. And so if you look on the page on texture techniques, you will see at least, I think there's two examples of this approach. Where I've snapped it, incised it, snapped it, and then they were wood fired. So you'll see two examples of that. So that was one technique that we were talking about, and the other one is the technique of faceting. And with faceting, what we want to do is, you see this piece is almost completely faceted now. And the way that works, let me show you the whole piece. You'll remember me coiling this piece. The way the faceting works is that you draw a line, and this is a horizontal facet, meaning that I'm making all the facets horizontally. You could also do a vertical or an angled vertical facet, and I believe in the texture section, there is an example of an angled vertical facet. But what I'm doing is I've drawn, you see, I've drawn a couple of lines here. I haven't gone any further than that. And I just want to finish this up where you can see it. So there's a couple of different tools that work really well for this. And again, this is your steel rib, and feel free to do this with your loaner ribs as well. You just return two rather than one rib, that's fine. And these are a very useful tool because they give you that sharp right angle. I've just taken our stainless steel rib and cut it in half and tried to make a fairly right angle corner there. This is a You can cut this with a regular scissors. It's really quite simple. So I've drawn this line around. I'm going to follow that line. And what I'm doing is I'm carving. I'm going to make it slant inward here out to this outward edge. And that's going to make a natural layering facet there. So I just go around and around. And I'll just build this up over time. Just making this incision. And then what I'm really doing is sculpting a shape. I'm cutting in at an angle so that what you'll get is what's happening all the way below is this angle. You can see it on the silhouette here, how this is the furthest point out and it angles in, and then there's a further point out and it angles in. So at every line, I cut it in deep here and angle it out. And that's how I'm doing it now with this one. You'll see that it's rough because this is a Dawn's 20, and it's got a rather large, got a 20 grit grog in it, which makes it very sandy looking. And I've minimized that a little bit, smoothed it out with the back of a spoon, kind of burnished it with the back of a spoon. And you can already see it starting to cut in here. And that's the technique. And I'll do the same thing in one more layer up here. So let me go a little further with this so you can get the idea. You just want to be really cautious and careful here. You don't want to push so hard that you dig through the top level there and violate that edge. If you were to do that, you could score and slip it and replace it with some softer clay. It's still wet enough that that would work. So you're really not risking anything, but you learn just to pay attention, to move carefully and slowly and get your work done that way. So I want to go a little deeper here. One of the strange things about doing these demonstration videos is when I'm at school teaching you face-to-face, at some point I would say, are there any questions? Is that clear? Do you follow? So usually that's what I would do, you follow? But I can't because this is all kind of delayed timing. But what we can do is you can send me an email if you have any questions at all. You can send me an email and you can just be as exacting as you like about, how does this work? I don't understand that. What do you do here? How do you hold your hand? Send me any kind of questions you have and I will do my best to give you a satisfactory answer. So you can see that's really digging in now. It used to look like this, where it was the same silhouette, but now this has dug in. And so that's looking about where I want it to be. Again, as with the incise and snap technique, if I go too far with this, if I dig in too much, what's going to happen is I'll encourage the pot to crack or to break. So I want to get deep enough to have a significant visual effect, but I don't want to go so deep that I encourage it to crack. When I'm done with both of these techniques, I will cover them with plastic. In fact, I'll probably cover this one with plastic and let it dry even slower because the slower it dries, the less likely it is to break, to crack. And then I'm going to take a regular spoon here. You'll see how rough this is here. If I take the spoon and I just rub it, what I'm doing is that I'm pushing all that rough grog, that gravelly rough grog, below into the surface of the clay, and then leaving just the clay particles on the top, and the spoon smooths those clay particles. And so you're just smoothing that out. And you can do that. Now, I don't usually do this much, but it feels like for this one, it might be easier to see the form if it's a little smoother in these areas. So I thought I'd give it a try. And this doesn't take very long. So there it is. There's the first, so I put another facet in here. If I go back over it, I'm going to have to smooth it again, but it felt like I might need to do a little bit. smooth this down one more time. And then I start for my last, I have one more facet to do. So I would start here. And again, the first one is especially delicate because it's really easy. It's just a little line and it's really easy to jump that line. So you want to really watch yourself and go slow and steady and just really pay attention to your work so that you don't jump the line. If you do, it's fixable. So you can see it starting now. And then I would go forward and continue that. So you've seen the incise and snap technique and the faceting technique. And if you look on the example page where I have the textures, what you'll see, I can get my face back here, what you'll see on that sample face, the sample on the sample sheet where the textures are, is you'll see, I think it's a module called, or a page that's called textures for African spherical pots, if you texture techniques. If you look at that, you'll see an example of this where the facets are going vertically at an angle. And that's an option. Basically, you can draw any line pattern you want, vertical, horizontal, angled, zigzag, curvy. And as long as you follow that line with this idea of where it's going to dig in and where it's going to come out to the surface, you can make facets in any shape, size, or movement that you wish. So this is another great tool. This corner of a broken hacksaw blade right here is a great tool for working with facets. You can see, though, it's hard to work this one because I risk hitting the shoulder. So it would work out lower. It would work fine here, but it won't work as well here. It gets, so this little tool, the cut in half steel rib, is an excellent tool for this. And you can already see it's starting to be get to its finish. When I finish that, I'm pretty much done with the green work on the whole piece. And you can see here, there are the two pots that we've been working with. So we've seen three. We've seen the applique, the lizard pot, and we've seen this is the facet piece, and this is the incise and snap. So, and again, these are 12-inch diameters when they start here. They'll shrink, and with shrinking, they'll be down slightly less than 11. They'll be about 10 3/4. You could start with a 10 or a 9-inch diameter, and that would take you about 1 bag of clay or a little less, whereas this takes about a bag and a quarter, bag and a half to do something this size. Okay, so that's our texture information for the African spherical pots. Look forward to talking to you about other exciting pottery techniques. So for instance, when we do the raku, or we do the membrane pottery, or the face jugs, that's all coming up. We'll talk to you soon.